Hey everyone, welcome. Let's see what we have on the hobby table. In this video I'll showcase my DBA project that I started last year. For those who are unfamiliar with the term, DBA or the Bellis Antiquitatis is a fast play rule set for the historical miniature wargame hobby. The Roman and Gaul models are 3D printed in 15mm scale and were designed by 3D Breed Miniatures. Initially released as a Kickstarter called March to Hell Rome. I scaled the 3D models in X and Y direction to 80% in order to slim them down a bit. Upon default setting they were slightly too chubby for my taste. This was my first time painting historical miniatures, and after a bit of research online I settled with a paint scheme, mostly inspired by the comic book series of Asterix and Obelix. My painting strategy was rather straightforward. First off, black primer applied via an airbrush, followed by blocking all the base colors in, starting with the inner regions of the model, working my way outwards. Shading was done via a brown wash, Agrex Earthshade in this specific case. For highlighting I simply used a lighter color than the base coat. And lastly I primed the models with a matte varnish via an airbrush. Basing was kept rather simple. I used 2mm MDF sheets, glued some sand on it, painted it brown and sprinkled some fine turf from woodland ceilings to add some nice green. For the gaming aspect of DBA, I used a base width of 40mm. Depending on unit type, the base depth varies between 20, 30 and 40mm. For the camp base, I used 3 times the standard base width and depth, thus it being 120 by 60mm. The base camps were made the following way. The tents and huts were carved out of foam, some teddy bear fur was used for the thatched roofs, and toothpicks for the wooden fences. Cheap craft paint was applied on everything, followed by a wash and a bit of dry brushing. Also some extra attention went out to basing, making some pathways and adding some lichen. Terrain is an essential part. Not only does it impact the battlefield rule-wise, but it also brings it to life. Most of my terrain making skills come from watching YouTube tutorials and applying what was taught. Mel, the terrain tutor Bose, has an excellent channel devoted to making terrain. With some PVA glue, wood filler, sand, stones and flocking materials, it's quite straightforward. The large rocks were cast using plaster and some rock molds, but there are multiple methods available. For the trees I printed some tree trunks and painted them. The canopy was made using filter sheets from a kitchen hood. The filter is cut in size, pulled apart to widen it and glued onto the trunk. Spray glue is applied onto the filter and flocking material is applied in multiple shades of green. In DBA an army consists out of 12 elements or bases. Each element has a specific number of figures fixed to it, in order to distinguish the unit type. My Roman army force consists of blade units with sword, pike units with pilum, cavalry units, a bow unit and artillery unit. The Gaul army consists of warband units with sword and spear, psiloi units with javelin or sling, and cavalry. To set up our battlefield I start out with some green cloth. MDF bases are cut out to shape and stacked on top of each other. When placed underneath the cloth, it introduces some nice elevation of the terrain. Leather scraps are used and present various terrain features such as roads, rivers and forests. Actual forest terrain is placed on top of the leather and can be removed when units are passing through. Fields and rocky area is level enough and don't need to be removed during play. Here are some shots of the battlefield in its full glory. Since DBA is about fighting battles, not skirmishes, the actual number of figures per army is variable. Here is an impression of a Gallic tribe fending off a Roman legion. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a comment and thanks for watching.